Check, check, mic check. Want to make sure I can be heard before we get started. Yep, I can hear myself. Okay, I had to pull up my secondary video, in order to make sure that my voice could be heard because it still doesn't show the dots when the mic is moving. So I always like to double check. But we are good on everything, so I can say, well, actually, let me move the camera over just a little bit. There we go. All right. Yo, peoples! Welcome to yet another iteration of One Piece Reflections, where we go over the chapters. Well, just to explain to you, for those of you who may be new, I always go over the chapters of One Piece that we get at the end of every single month. And I've been doing it for a while now. So we've had 3 chapters get released in the month of February, where we finally see the conclusion of Oden's story. We have chapters 970, 971, and 972. We're going to run through the chapters real quick. We'll talk about them, and then we'll reflect on all the chapters we got for this month and see how it stacks up to the story. And also, put a little couple theories here and there and sort of give it a rough idea of what we think the story is going to go back to, whether it's going to go back to the present or maybe have one more chapter in the past before we go back to the present. These will be things that we'll talk about, and then we'll just go on from there. I won't be too long because I know I can drone on for a little while sometimes. So I'll try to, be courteous of you guys' time and not go on too long. I should put some lip stuff on my lip split. Where's my lip balm? I can't have my lips splitting when I'm doing my reactions. Also, hey, Psycho, what's going on? Because I'm going to be... I need to be careful how I say this. I'm going to be talking a lot, so I need to make sure that I'm moisturized. But let's go ahead and get started with the first chapter we got in February, chapter 970, Oden versus Kaido. Now, before this chapter, chapter 969, the Legendary Hour, I originally believed that the Oden versus Kaido chapter was the Legendary Hour itself. But we find out more about that when we get to the last 2 chapters of this month. But with chapter 970, Oden versus Kaido, we have a page from Gang Beige, Oh My Family. Beige and Vito are immobilized, presumably by whichever person is a part of the Germs pirates that were in Dressrosa. I'm putting forth the idea that one of them is a devil fruit user, and they are able to influence people like through germs or something like that to cause all these people to just go gaga over Capone and Vito. Like, they're getting kissed on by dudes and women alike. So they're obviously under the influence of a devil fruit power in some sort of way or fashion. So that's happening to Capone and Vito in this chapter. But we cut into the first, and the last chapter we saw, the 9 scabbards were all walking with Oden, and they were making their way to the flower capital. And they're not saying anything. It's kind of silent. You got multiple women playing some biwas, including the head lady that was training Robin to be, courtesan. Or not courtesan, but training Robin to be a geisha so she can be invited to Orochi's castle, as many of you already read in the manga or seen in the anime. So she's there. They're playing biwas. Then we have the 9 scabbards with Oden walking. We have a shot of Hiyori and Momonosuke and Lady Toki. We have Yasuye and some of his people riding out, they make their way to the flower capital, and it's kind of snowing. It's just cutting to shots of the flower capital and what looks to be Ringo. So we see that, and then it cuts to Oden saying, "This is not what I expected. Why are you so thoroughly prepared? How did you know? I was on my way to cut off your head as you sat on that empty island drinking yourself to sleep." He's talking to Kaido here. "I wasn't expecting a battle of numbers."
Perhaps I have a spy in your castle. Whoa. I just had my mansion built. I'd rather not have it used as a battleground, so I came out to meet you instead.
Hey, Collegio, what's going on? So Kaido is already there waiting for Oden when he and his vassals show up. That it was a lie. Then it was all a lie, wasn't it, Kaido?
That's right. Whoa. All lies. I sensed that we were at a disadvantage then. After your return, if you had joined forces with Hyogoro, we would have had to deal with all the samurai and Yakuza of Wano together. We had fewer numbers then. It would have been a difficult battle.
So basically what Kaido's saying is all those years that they had Oden dancing like a fool, like 5 years, that could have been time he would have prepared a force with, Hyogoro and all the samurai. But because they had Oden doing all that, Oden couldn't really gather enough forces or even team up with Hyogoro to, combat Kaido and his men. Because during that time, he has like hundreds upon thousands of people with them right now in this chapter. And during this chapter, is my lip bleeding? No, it's not. During this time, when he meets up with Oden, he has like a whole massive army, which he didn't have when he returned. When Oden came back with his adventure and, the final voyage of Roger. Kaido didn't have this many people, but he managed to build up this many people during the 5 years that Oden was forced to dance out in front of everybody like a complete fool. We find out the reason for that later. So, if Oden went up against Kaido and Orochi back then, and he had the numbers, had he gathered people, but because of what they made Oden do, Kaido was able to increase the number of his crew and the number of people that work for him to like a massive army, country-sized front against Oden.
After your return, if you had joined forces with Hyogoro, we would have to deal with all the samurai and Yakuza of Wano together. We had fewer numbers then. It would have been a difficult battle. Especially if you lived up to your fearsome reputation as a madman who would not blink at any sacrifice.
I'm just messing with my voice changer a little bit. I'm not going to mess with it too much during this whole thing because it can throw people off a little bit. So I'm just going to use my regular voice from here on. And I just wanted to see how it sounded to you guys. Was that all right? Instead, you chose the method that would not hurt anyone. Newgate and Roger were like that too. Mighty pirates, but soft in their way. And you are one of them, the fool who chose to dance, stripped to your loincloth, mocked by all. You have none of the old Kozuki dignity. I stand by my decision that day. Let us speak of the future now. And the Beast Pirates and Oden and his vassals immediately go to town and they just start. Although it might be harder to voice act over it. Yeah, I'm just going to stick with my regular voice so that way I don't have to, constantly switch over. I just like to try it from time to time. It's not going to be like a permanent thing. But the Beast Pirates prepare to go to war against them, and Oden just cuts through a whole chunk of them, and then pretty much all of the 9 Scabbards, they all join in, and they all start fighting the Beast Pirates. Follow Lord Oden into battle! Wait a second. Is this what samurai are like? They're so tough. Don't fall back. We have the strength of numbers on our side. Then you have Kiku, you have Raizo, Denjiro, Kanjuro, Kinemon, Nekomamushi, Inoarashi, Kawamatsu, Ashura Doji, and Oden themselves all fighting. And then Yasuye comes up to the castle, comes up to Kuri, and meets up with Toki. Oden sent a messenger to me by horse. He said that his wife and children would be in danger, and he asked me to see to you. So Lord Momonosuke is already ate. So Momonosuke is already like ate at this time, and in this panel we see Hiyori just happily drop kicking him straight in the face. Because as we know, that's something that she loved to do to her older brother back then. Otoki, we must be prepared for the worst. If Oden loses this battle, then this country is lost. And then it cuts back to Oden and the vassals all fighting with so many gifters and so many smilers. Then we have one of them try to take aim at Oden, but it's intercepted by a kunai in the chest given by Shinobu, who's just watching all this go down and, kind of helping out. And she says, I hope you don't mind that I'm joining your side. You may not remember me, but I served back in the days of Shogun Sukiyaki. Is that Shinobu? And from back then, he remembers when Shinobu was just like a little kid. Yes, it is me. I served at the castle believing that the Kozuki would rule once again. But Fukuro Kuju and the Kozuki Ninja Legion, Oniwa Banshu, chose to switch allegiance to Orochi in the end. I dream of one day serving you as shogun so I can no longer stay in the palace. I do not blame any who would lose faith in a fool of a lord. And Shinobu doesn't really like that nickname for him. She kind of grimaces at it. We walk a path of thorns, Shinobu. And the whole battle just continues on. I will join you. On one side, 11 samurai ventured into battle. And that looks like Queen right there, fighting against Denjuro and Kinemon. And then we have Raizo getting injured by King because he has blood all over his forehead, saying, some of them are very dangerous. On one side, 11 samurai ventured into battle. On the other, 1,000 pirates. But the battle lasted longer than expected. And then we have Kaido using his double fruit abilities as a dragon to use his blast breath. But the battle lasted longer than expected as Kozuki Oden's strength surpassed the enemy's imagination, which goes to show you that samurai are nothing to sneeze at whatsoever. Even against the beast pirates, it's still a fight that they were not completely ready for. And of course, Oden gets launched back by the blast breath by Kaido. The only thing I want to cut is your scaly neck. Oden two-sword style. And before Kaido can do anything, Oden delivers the coup de grace to Kaido, the only cross-shaped scar and the only injury that Kaido ever sustained in his life, with Paradise Totsuka. Paradise Totsuka. He landed a blow on the invincible Kaido. And this is enough to almost put Kaido out of commission completely. One hit. The only thing that we've seen Kaido to be injured by so far is enough to almost put him out of the fight. Because his eyes go white and he completely falls down. And he screams and he kind of groans out in pain too. Never come back to Wano, because as soon as Kaido stops, skidding across the ground after receiving the hit, Oden is already almost there, prepared to cut his neck. And this is the thing that got me, because I wasn't really paying attention to the panel or to the fact that I've seen people earlier in previous chapters and I didn't put two and two together at the time. Stop right there, Oden. Help, father. Now, here's the thing that kind of surprised me. Well, I wouldn't say it surprised me, but it didn't dawn on me right then and there. And it shows a beast pirate holding Momonosuke, who we come to actually find out that it's actually the Kurozumi Higurashi, the user of the clone fruit, posing as Momonosuke in order to distract Oden, which Kaido uses to his advantage to literally one-shot Oden in the back of his head and completely put him out of commission. So yeah, it fooled Oden and it fooled me because I wasn't paying attention. But he just uses Kaido uses a cheap shot, knocks Oden in the back of the head, and he's down. And then Kinemon screams out, Lord Oden! And then Ashura Doji looks away for a second, and he's stabbed in the back. He's stabbed in the back by what appears to be Queen, because there's a silhouette, because it's not Queen, but King. There's a silhouette behind him, and it's in the shape of King, along with another panel where a bloody sword is dripping with blood, obviously, right there. The fighting was so fierce that the fires that burned Udon's thick forest did not abate until the rains arrived a full 5 days later. So literally One Piece versions of the Amaterasu flames. Nothing stopped until it was several days later. The daimyo of Kuri, Kozuki Oden, and his 9 followers were imprisoned in the flower capital to await their punishment for the crime of rebellion against the shogun. Unaware of the reason behind this act, the populace's reaction was cold, because they don't know what Oden was doing. Because when Oden was out there dancing like a complete fool in the streets, they have no idea the reason why he was doing it. So then it got to the point where they were just completely tired of him overall, but they don't know the reason behind it. After what a disappointment he was. A little late, don't you think? And it shows another panel with Kinemon and the rest of them all bound in chains in the jail. Does this mean we won't get to see his naked dance every week? That's the only downside to this. Hey, this is serious. And Shinobu's walking through the streets. And it was this chapter that people were starting to say that, oh no, Shinobu's the traitor because she's walking by herself. Oh, she's not saying anything. Oh, she's a lot of theories about Shinobu being a traitor popped up, but she's not. And later chapters kind of, give reasons to why she's not the traitor. I don't know her. She's no vassal of mine. I don't know her. She's no vassal of mine. Are you after my life then? Who are you? Begone, Konoichi. And then we have like a town crier. The sentence for the samurai has been decided. And then it cuts to another panel with Toki, Hiyori, and Momonosuke, with Momonosuke saying, Mother, when is father coming home? I folded a paper balloon for him. Oh, that's lovely. Won't it be nice when he returns? And then this looks like Otsuru. Yeah, that looks like Otsuru right there, with Yasuye looking on into the rain. In the public square 3 days hence, the 10 wicked samurai are sentenced to be boiled to death. And then that's the end of the chapter for 970. Then we go into 971. It was a good chapter. 970 was a good chapter. The big, massive selling point was the fact that 11 samurai was taking on over 1,000 pirates and Kaido himself, and they all walked away still alive. Though some of them got injured, a lot of them got injured. I think getting stabbed in the back counts as a very, very serious injury. Yet Ashura Doji is still alive and kicking. But the biggest takeaway was the 9 vassals and Oden and Shinobu fighting against the Beast Pirates, Kaido receiving his one and only scar so far, with Oden being the person to give it to him. And then it ended with Oden and his vassals being imprisoned, with the sentence being boiled to death. So going into chapter 971, Sentenced to Boil, we have Ganbeijo, My Family, where Gotti's running to go after Shinobu, it seems, though he did get bodied by that one Marine, My Family chapter before the last one that we read. So going into this, it looks like Momonosuke's trying to eat, but his mom says, don't eat that. It hasn't been tasted for poison yet. And he has the right hand, which is also the right hand of Kozuki Sukiyaki, tasting the food for him. And she's letting him know that when you first read that chapter, you thought it was a bit anticlimactic because you thought it was the legendary hour, but then I understood everything as soon as the next chapter started. Yes, that's the thing. It didn't dawn on me what the legendary hour was until the last 2 chapters were completely through. Because I just thought that it was a whole hour I just thought it was a legendary hour when they were fighting Kaido, but they fought for days. They fought for a couple of days, so, more than 1 hour. But understanding what that legendary hour is, you start to realize just how big of a Chad, just how big of a king, just how macho Oden really is. So Toki is telling Momonosuke here that because your father is a great man and you are meant to one day carry this nation on your shoulders. So she's just teaching him to be careful. And, because, in the days of Wano and the lives of Wano, poisoning people through food is a very Edo period type of thing to do, a very samurai period thing to do, poison people through food. Is that something people still do? I would not be surprised if people still use such old-timey tactics to actually carry that thing out. But then again, the classics never do die out, do they? And then the right hand of Sukiyaki says, "It's safe for you, Lord Momonosuke, Lady Hiyori." I wonder how many right hands Sukiyaki had to go through before this guy outlasted all of them when it came to tasting food that was poisoned. "Mother, is it true that father will be..." And of course, they know about the news about Oden and his vassals being executed, being boiled to death. Well, at least Momonosuke does. Hiyori doesn't fully understand. But the next panel shows the public execution of Kozuki Oden and his 9 vassals will begin momentarily. And here we have a panel where it's just like a giant pot. Giant flaming pot. It is absolutely massive. It's like the size of, like a housing area swimming pool, or at least twice the size of a housing area swimming pool. Like the type of swimming pools you see in a gated community where, hey, everyone can come and swim. It's like literally twice, maybe 3 times that size. And all the vassals are standing there. We see the Oniwa Banshu, the Ninja Legion in the back. I might as well start calling them the Ninja Legion instead of the Oniwa Banshu. I might differentiate, but they're there standing in the back. Then we have other people who follow under Orochi on the other side, with the vassal standing there in the middle, with Oden clearly in front. And we have the citizens, getting prepared to see this execution. They've become desensitized to Oden, so they're actually excited and looking forward to an actual execution. "Hurry, it's not every day you get to see a boiling. It only takes a second because they use oil. We don't want to miss this. And since it's oil, it burns even hotter. It's not like water where it's scalding hot. No, oil sticks to you and burns deeper." And of course, we have Oden stepping forward. "So he couldn't beat Kaido in the end, even for a fool of a lord. I thought his strength was a real deal. So what was he good for anyway?" Then we have Orochi and Kaido just sitting up, chilling, drinking sake, with Kaido with some bandages across his front. Probably be the last time you ever see bandages across him or anything. And then before Oden steps out in front, he looks back at Kaido and says, "I request that you give me a chance. It is imperative that I survive." Kaido looks on in utter disgust, like, "Why are you asking to survive?" And then the person who's trying to push him into the pot says, "Into the pot already. No more jokes. Don't beg for your life now." He slips, falls into the oil, and is burned alive. It doesn't take long for the oil to work its magic and eat through this guy, because he falls out of the pot dead instantly, literally melted down to the bone. And I'm making sure I'm not missing another panel. Okay, I'm not. "All 10 of us will enter the pot together. If any of us withstand the boiling for the amount of time you agree upon, please let them go free." This is the moment where Oden starts to cement himself as literally one of One Piece's greatest characters ever. "Lord Oden, what is this?" "Withstand? This is an instantaneous death sentence." "Go get a clock to count the time." "Yes, sir." "You have 1 hour." The legendary hour, ladies and gentlemen. If he and his vassals can withstand 1 whole hour, even though we just seen a panel before of a man falling into it and dying instantly, if he and his vassals are able to withstand being in there for 1 whole hour, then they can go free. "Whoa, let's see you last that long. It's enough time to get lightheaded in the bath." "Do I have your word on that?" "Of course." "He still won't just give up. Can you make it quick? I got errands to run." Pathetic to the end. And then Oden just jumps in there. And the heat is enough to make him scream out in pain. And he breaks his chains because he's literally chained up at the wrist. But the pain is enough for him to literally snap the chains and, and react to how extremely hot the oil is. Don't let our Lord go in alone. After him, and we'll meet again in the afterlife. All of you, get on top of the plank. And before they can even jump in, Oden lifts the same plank they're all running on and hoists it over his shoulders and keeps the vassals from falling in the oil. No, Lord Oden, stop this! It ought to be the other way around, Lord Oden. We should be the ones to hold you up. And he's already feeling the effects of the oil because he's already bleeding from the nose. He's bleeding from the mouth. Shut up and stay there. This is an order. Lord Oden! This whole panel, the whole left panel is great because you see the reactions of the vassals and everything. But this whole right panel where it just shows Oden in this boiling pot, holding every single vassal up on his shoulders. Such a beautiful panel. Such a beautiful panel. Hey, what's going on? His vassals aren't even touching the oil. But all 10 of them are within the pot. It's true. Very entertaining. Well done, Oden. So even though Kaido, he's ruthless, he don't care, he still has a little bit of honor when it comes to certain people who surprise him. Like with Luffy, he could have killed him right then and there when Luffy tried to fight Kaido, but he chose not to because he knows that Luffy is strong, and he figured that if he were able to break Luffy's spirit, then he can make Luffy become a part of his crew. Kaido knows power when he sees it. And if he's able to recruit that power, he would rather that person be alive and serving under him than him just kill him outright. That's also another reason why he tried to recruit Ashura Doji when he came down in his dragon form to the town where he was fighting Jack. So sorry, something's in my eye. It's annoying when that happens. It really is. He's holding up 9 great big men on his own. That would take incredible physical strength already, but to do it while standing in boiling oil? And then Shinobu can only look on with tears in her eyes. And you see the oil, you see it starting to... oil does not lose heat very quickly when compared to water. So the fact that the heat itself still remains the same, literally hours upon end. He's already feeling the effects of it, but he's still remaining steadfast. And the timer's still going. And you see another panel with Oden here. He's hurting, but he's still holding everybody up. Lord Oden, put us down! What's the matter? It hasn't even been 1 minute yet. And the clock's still ticking. People are still watching on. People of the Ninja Legion are wondering how strong can one man's skin be? We see the flames still going. We see the oil still boiling. I feel as though the heat alone is going to make me alive. Stop whining, Raizo, or I'm really going to give you something to complain about. All we got to do is stand here. Don't move, Cat. The shifting will weigh on him below. And we see the effects that it's starting to have on Oden's body. Blood is starting to shoot out from his arms due to the strain and his, I'm guessing, skin tearing and muscles starting to tear on the inside, but he's still keeping them hoisted over him. His feet is burning and they're bleeding from below. His mouth and nose is still bleeding as well. And it's only been 4 minutes. I heard it was only supposed to take a second. This is surprisingly boring. I thought he'd be screaming and dying in agony and such. I'm gonna get going now. I can't waste any more of my time on this fool of a lord. And this is where Shinobu completely loses it. Because we all know that Shinobu was there when Orochi was speaking to Oden in the throne room, but we didn't know until this chapter just what they were talking about. And Shinobu's fed up and she can't hold it on anymore, and she's almost ready to kill this guy who's speaking out against Oden. How dare you call him that? Say it one more time and I'll end your life! What's that woman doing? Look out, she's got a sword! The Kunoichi, and she's breathing real hard. Stop! You are the fools! That's Shinobu, Captain. And then Fukudo Kuju and his guys look over in her direction. What is Shinobu doing? Why is she making a scene? Who do you think has been ensuring that you all live in peace? If you lose Lord Oden now, you'll all come to understand. You'll know just how much misery he kept at bay. Orochi is no shogun or even a dictator. Orochi doesn't want to rule over a populace. If you ask me, every single person in this land is guilty of persecuting the Kurozumi clan. I don't care if every last one of them dies. I took the shogun's throne to drive this country into ruin, to complete my vengeance. Years ago, my grandpa committed a crime and was forced to commit seppuku. Our clan fell into ruin, and that was one thing. But then the rest of the family left behind was chased and terrorized by strangers who claimed they were performing justice. They beat us, threw us in the river, killed us. I was so terrified of the mob of fools that I couldn't sleep. The man who committed the crime was long dead at this point. Apparently, even a child can be a criminal if he happens to have the name Kurozumi. So everyone in Wano is a target for my vengeance. You will reap what you have sown. So it just shows that Orochi doesn't care about the people. He doesn't even care about the land. He just wants to destroy it and just ruin everything. The people, the land, everything that Wano stands for. He just wants it all to just rot and die. So he doesn't care if the people die. He doesn't care what happens to the country because it's all part of his vengeance against his clan that brought it on themselves. I love how these villains always try and justify their actions when it comes to doing deeds like this. I love it. Like Doflamingo, for example, he's justifying his actions because he was mistreated when his father, Don Quixote Homing, decided to become a regular person, no longer becoming a world noble, lose all titles and privileges, and just live like a normal person. But it's the actions of the world nobles themselves that caused Doflamingo and his family to be treated the way it was. So it's the world nobles' fault. Even though Don Quixote Homing and Miasgard are the exception to this rule because they are the only world nobles that we've seen that have like even a small shred of humanity in them. The rest of the world nobles, they pretty much don't care. Unless you got the cowlick and the little bubble around your head, then who you are does not matter. You're less than trash. But I love how these villains who have bad upbringings and are essentially evil, it's in their personality. Doflamingo still behaves like a world noble, even though he's no longer one. He expected people to treat him like a world noble, even though he was no longer one. And when he was, tortured along with his brother Rocinante and his father after their mother died, he still resented every single person around him. And as he grew up and he built his own pirate crew and his own family and became like an underworld broker. He was in the slave trade. He was into weapons trafficking. He was into so many different things. He still tried to justify his actions by what he did. Like even during the final moments of the Dressrosa arc when he was fighting against Luffy, he was saying that everyone here in Dressrosa is here to be manipulated by me. Your friends, everyone in this country, the Marines, no matter what happens, you're all just human trash. Because he still thinks he's a world noble. That's like even though he's no longer one, he still has the mindset of one, and he just can't let that go. So that's why I drew similarities here between Orochi and Doflamingo, because they all had an upbringing that was less than ideal, but they would rather blame other people. And my thing is, they rather see the world and blame other people for what's wrong than trace it back to their own ancestors. Like, it's the world nobles the reason why Doflamingo and his family were mistreated. All the years of the world nobles treating the world, the entire world, everyone who's not a world noble, like trash. And, like, for example, a world noble could, see like my sister and say like, she's beautiful. take her. And I can't do anything about it. I mean, I could, but they'd probably shoot me. The fact that centuries upon hundreds of years of these world nobles doing the same thing caused people to look at them in a different light. And that's the reason why Doflamingo and his family were treated the way they were. The Kurozumi family all tried to gain control of the country of Wano by killing off anyone that could stand in their way of gaining the seat, poisoning people, manipulation, trying to take down the shogun themselves. And what happened? They all got killed off. The person who tried to enact this was forced to submit seppuku because he tried to overthrow the shogun through numerous nefarious means. And because of the action of one individual or many individuals, the entire line of Kurozumi was looked at, disdained, and even sought after and killed because of what happened with this one person. So another similarity between Orochi and Doflamingo is the fact that they think that even though what they know good, and you can't tell me that they know good and well that what the person was trying to do to gain control of the seat was not a good idea. You can't tell me that they thought that, this is fine. We'll just kill off all these people and then take control of it for ourselves. And almost the entire line of the Kurozumi clan gets wiped out, with Orochi still being around to take up the role as, doing what his grandfather did and try and take the control of shogunate for himself. So you can kind of see the similarities here on how they completely ignore the wrongdoings of their ancestors and think that the bad thing that happens to their ancestors justify their reasons for doing what they're doing now. Orochi justifies his reasons for taking over the shogunate seat, the throne of shogun, and ruining Wano as recompense for them mistreating the Kurozumi clan, even though it was the Kurozumi clan who put themselves in that situation. Doflamingo pretty much justifies his reasons for taking over Dressrosa and doing whatever he wants to land because of how the world's treated him when he was growing up, even though it was his previous status as a world noble that pretty much ushered in, and the actions of the world noble that ushered in his all the bad actions and bad feelings that went towards him. So it just gets me how these villains, who we all see the backstory of, have bad things happen in the past with people who are related to them, and then they justify the reasons for them being mistreated and doing evil, incredibly evil actions. They justify it even though what their ancestors and people who were related to them did was just as evil as them. So it kind of gets me how these villains, like in Dressrosa, Doflamingo sits in a high castle similar to celestial dragons on Marie-Joie above the rest of the world. Yep, pretty much. He takes over the seat of Dressrosa. He ruins the reputation of the king. There's so many similarities between Doflamingo and Orochi. Doflamingo takes over the entire country of Dressrosa. He removes the person who was sitting on the throne, and even ruins his reputation in the eyes of the people. Kurozumi Orochi takes over the seat of shogun and causes Oden to dance like a complete fool, losing his respect in the eyes of the people. There are so many similarities between Orochi and Doflamingo right here. They both take over a country. They both ruin the reputation of the person who's supposed to rule the country. And they justify their actions for doing so based on how they were treated growing up. But it's also because of what people related to these people did in the past that caused them to have this worldview. So many similarities between these two. My name is Orochi. You killed my father. Prepare to die. My name is Kurozumi Orochi. You killed my grandfather. Prepare to die. And you just say it over and over and over and over and over and over again. But there's so many similarities between Doflamingo and Orochi that it's actually kind of a running theme, because a lot of people that we've seen in the history of One Piece always try to use the name of other people or their upbringing as an excuse Doflamingo could back up his actions. Orochi needed someone else to do it for him. Yes, because as we know, the only difference between Orochi and Doflamingo is Doflamingo could actually do things on his own if he wanted to, but he just had it. He just had some extra people. He just had some extra people to, give him a hand with it. Because the difference between Orochi and Doflamingo is Doflamingo actually has the strength and power to do things on his own, where Orochi is just a sniveling coward who hides behind other people in order to intimidate them and to get things done. Because if it wasn't for the barrier fruit user, then Orochi would have died when Oden came to the castle the first time. Because they shot Toki in the leg. And he kept using Kaido's name as a reason for, like, don't kill me. Kaido will be mad if you do this. Like, Doflamingo would not be using the name of other people's because he just sees himself above other people. He doesn't like to rely on other people, or he just prefers to do things on his own or do things kind of underhanded in some similar ways. But Doflamingo has the strength and power to back up his actions. Whereas Orochi is basically letting the strength of other people kind of carry him. Kind of in a way similar to Gecko Moria after he lost his battle with Kaido all those years ago. He would rather have other people do the work for him and him get lazy. That's the reason why the dude got so fat. That's true. I wonder if it's going to be a recurring theme foreshadowing to what the will of D is and what happened in the Void Century. The moment we find out what the will of D is and what the Void Century is, I feel like decades of theories that people have been waiting on. Some are going to be shattered, some could be right, or none could be right whatsoever, and it's going to be something completely out of left field. But the moment we find out what the will of D is and what happened during the Void Century, the entire world of One Piece is going to completely change. Because these are some of the biggest mysteries, even bigger than who Dragon is and what his devil fruit is, or even if he has one, because it's still unconfirmed. But the Will of D and the Void Century are two of the biggest and largest mysteries in all of One Piece. The moment we find that out, everything we know of One Piece is going to literally change. I'm saying it right now. The time is now 10:42 on the last day of February. I'm letting you guys know right here, right now. The moment we find out what the Will of D is and what happened in the Void Century, everything we ever knew of One Piece is going to completely change. Our entire worldview of One Piece is going to completely change, where we will not look at One Piece the same again. But that's just me going. But it's 3:42 p.m. here. Well, I won't. How much time have I been using up? 43 minutes. Good Lord, that's actually kind of long. I wasn't even paying attention. And then we'll laugh. Yeah, then we'll laugh. We're going to look at all the theories that people came up with and compare them to what we thought like years ago was going to happen and is going to be completely different. But it's something. But let's continue on with this chapter. I'm still not done with this because there's so much packed into this chapter that's making me draw back to different characters, like the similarities between Doflamingo. I wonder how many minutes I took with that. Sorry if I took too long with that. But continuing on with the chapter, Shinobu explains why Oden was doing what he's doing, because she starts to explain what she knew in the throne room when Oden and Orochi were speaking to one another. Let me see. Then, from a room in the back, he produced a tribute for Kaido, a great stock of weapons and many hundreds of kidnapped people. And there's men, women, and children, and it's in an entire room with a whole bunch of weapons and a whole bunch of other things that Orochi was keeping off to the side for Kaido. Which is basically pretty much the agreement that they have agreed upon. Kaido will work with Orochi as long as he provides either, kidnapped people and a great stock of weapons. They'll be sold, tortured, or killed. Once handed over, their lives will be finished, their fate sealed. Lord Oden was furious, but then Orochi made a suggestion. You want to stop the kidnapping, but if you go to war against us, you will lose far more than you bargained for. And here, in this panel, I didn't notice it, but we have... Wow. You can't really tell You couldn't really tell with Kaido, but this dude got some skinny legs. You can't really tell with Kaido because he has it. He has like really big baggy pants, like his current world appearance, and we haven't seen Kaido's appearance like full scale from the past. But here, he's got some really skinny legs, like really skinny legs. He kind of reminds me of who's the guy? Who's the guy? Like very, he has like, oh, man. Well, there's a ton of characters who have this type of body type, but massive upper body. Like we've seen Kaido, his whole arm is literally like both of his chests combined together, but he has like really skinny legs. But I never noticed that, and he doesn't have the Fu Manchu mustache. My main question is, what is Kaido getting out of working with Orochi? That's the thing. The tribute with that is. Thought a sneeze was coming. The sneeze is on it. There it is. What is Kaido getting out of working with Orochi? It says right here, a tribute for Kaido. So a great stock of weapons. Like back then, Higurashi, the user of the clone fruit, was telling Orochi that to team up with different people, he's going to need. Thank you. He's going to need like a great stock of weapons and numerous weapon factories, which he's built up. So with this giant stock of weapons, many hundreds of kidnapped people, he's offering these things to Kaido, and Kaido's pretty much going to do whatever he wants with them, kidnap them, torture them, or kill them, because that's what Kaido does. So with a free stock of weapons, that's pretty much a good deal for Kaido because he's already trying to build up a giant, massive army. So with a giant, massive army that he's building with, the smiles that Caesar was making, and Doflamingo was supplying to him, he had like a steady supply of Zoan-type artificial soldiers and a steady supply of weapons from Orochi and, kidnap people to do whatever they want. So I'm pretty sure that's a pretty good deal for Kaido. So I'm pretty sure that's the reason why Kaido's working with Orochi. Constant stream of weapons, up until a certain point, a numerous supply of kidnapped people to do whatever they want, and up until a certain point, a constant supply of smiles. So as of currently, in the present day, the only thing that Kaido has coming to him is now weapons, because the Straw Hats cut off Doflamingo from Kaido, which cut off his supply for smiles, and Oden's actions cut off the kidnapped people, which Kaido and his men, something's in my eye again, which Kaido and his men were going to pretty much do whatever they want with. So the only thing Kaido's getting out of this deal currently at this point is just weapons right now. So only time will tell if Kaido is going to stick with Orochi or just going to leave, because his tribute is getting a lot smaller with all the things that have happened in the present day and the past. Once handed over, their lives would be finished, their fate sealed. Okay, I already read this. You will lose far more than you bargained for. The enemy was an agent of vengeance with no interest in the good of the country. It was clear that more would be lost than just a question of victory or defeat. So Lord Oden chose to accept Orochi's offer. If he made a public dance in the buff at the same time every week as an apology to the Kurozumi clan, then he would lose all of his standing, but he would save 100 lives with each dance. And I counted, and there was like 52 days within a regular year. And he did this once, 52 days that he did this in a year. And with every day he did this, it was 100 lives he saved. So it's a vast number. I'm not going to do the math again because my math was wrong, except for the number of days he did it. So I'm not going to do the math on that. So you guys can do that math if you chose. But he would lose all of his standing, but he would save 100 lives with each dance. And while she's telling everyone the truth here, Orochi and Kaido are just laughing it off. He trusted their promise that 5 years later they would agree to sail away from this country when they were done building their ships. So he traveled from region to region every week, making certain that nothing had changed. For all of these years, Lord Oden has been protecting this land. So tell me again, who are you calling a fool of a lord? And then the chapter ends right there. So here's the thing, though. that's the number I came up with, but that's only the amount of people he saved within a year. Oden did this for 5 years. So count 26,000 times 5, and that's pretty much the people that he saved for those 5 years. But we go into the final chapter that we got this month, chapter 972. We got a cover here for Hungry Days, of which I still have to look into. But chapter 972, I am Oden and I was born to boil. That's for 5 years. Okay, so yeah, that's kind of the math that I came up with. Each year, it's 52,000. Okay, so yeah, like I said, my math is not good. I am not good at math whatsoever. I'm good at some of it, but not when I gotta, spend a lot of time with it. But chapter 972, I am Oden and I was born to boil. So Lord Oden has been keeping us safe all this time? You can't just reveal all this stuff right now. It was too much for my emotions to process. And of course, the Ninja Legion comes in and tells... It's fine, I used the calculator. That's pretty much what I used. The truth will only cause confusion, Shinobu. All they need to know is that the fool of a lord who defied the shogun will die. The execution will eventually finish, and that will be the lasting message. Fukuro Kuju! I'm sure you knew that speaking up would come at a great cost. I've decided to join my fate to theirs, life or death. I am Lord Oden's vassal. I will not follow you. If anything should happen to them, then I will die along with Kozuki. But it won't come to that. We'll all survive this and we'll strike you down. In your dreams. Makes me wonder how Fukudo Kuju's head expanded upwards, because here it looks relatively normal size. How does a skull grow upwards? I'm asking the wrong questions here. Shogun Orochi, please stop this execution. I beg of you. I beseech you too. And me too. And all the people who cry out and ask for Orochi to stop, they all get shot with arrows. They've been shot with arrows. We must help them. And it just turns out that it's just another person from Kaido's Beast Pirates who's, trying to keep people from staging an uprising right then and there, because there's a big crowd of people. They're keeping everyone quiet. If you speak out, you die. Orochi. The crowd instantly understood the threat a madman bent on revenge posed to them. Silence, trash. They realized that the man undergoing the extended execution they'd been watching was in fact the one shining hope for Oden. And then we have Nekomamushi right there. Lord Oden! Lord Oden! The people suddenly noticed they were surrounded by Kaido and Orochi's men, bristling with weapons. So, while the crowd was there, Kaido's men and Orochi's men silently got around them. So that even if there was an uprising, Kaido and his men and Orochi and his men were all waiting to silence those who spoke out. So they wanted to ensure that nothing good came of this execution. Even if the truth got revealed, not a single bit of hope was there. You speak anything, you get shot with arrows. You stage an uprising, all these men will kill you. You literally have a no-win situation. That's pretty much what they put everybody in. The reason for Oden's 5-year stretch of odd behavior spread throughout the crowd like wildfire. Then he was actually saving us? Man, we look so stupid now! It spurred the people into motion. They shot the urgent news to the various castles of the land. The letter arrows of Wano crossed great distances to send messages. The boiling oil in the pot passed 700 degrees and continued to rise. Can we all talk about how they just send in news arrows? Now, how far does the average arrow travel? I don't know. But I know it's not a long distance to go from all the way in the flower capital all the way to a whole new region. So either they're just shooting these arrows to designated locations and, like point A to point B, C, D, E, onwards until it gets to a region, or samurai, which would not shock me at all, have ridiculously large arm strength, which allows them to shoot arrows over great distances. Neither one of these options are far-fetched because we've seen the strength of people in Wano. It's ridiculous. Aside from any other type of place that we've seen, the strength of people is ridiculous. So it's not too far-fetched to think that they can just shoot an arrow across an entire region. I mean, it's not like they're a flight arrow of a professional archer of Edward III's time would reach 400 yards. I'm pretty sure that the flower capital, all the way over to like Kuri or Yasuye's region, is more than 400 yards. So either they're shooting them to designated places for them to be shot to other places, or they're just shooting it from one side. In One Piece, I'm guessing it would be much longer. Yes, an average person like Zoro is able to pick up, well, I call them average, but a person the size of Zoro is able to pick up a building and throw it at Dad's bones all the way back in Alabasta. So arm strength is something that really should not be taken too seriously when it comes to ridiculous things like this. So, but yeah, the letter arrows of Wano cross great distances to send messages. The boiling oil in the pot passed 700 degrees and continued to rise. And here we see Oden getting even more and more ragged. More and more blood is pouring from his body as he's still holding up all the vassals without shifting his position. Please, Lord Oden, survive this torment. Lord Oden, hang in there, Lord Oden. We're sorry for insulting you. We were ignorant. Thank you for protecting us, Lord Oden. Oh, now they care. How convenient for them. Ignore them, my lord. Thank you all. I will persevere. He's so appreciative. Listen to me. If I manage to survive this boiling, I would like to open up this country. What's he blabbing about? What's he blabbing about? You said that before, my lord, that the Kozuki clan had something to do with our closed policy. What did you learn out there on the Great Wide Sea? Long ago, the ones responsible for closing this nation to the rest of the world were the Kozuki clan. What? And it was to protect Wano from a great external power. Kind of reminds me how Wakanda used to be closed up until they start interacting with the outside world and decided to open up their borders and, give their gift to the world. So, kind of similarities here. Wano. No, the entire world awaits a figure. And when that figure appears after an 800-year span, this country must be prepared to welcome and work with them. Don't know if you knew, but Chapter 973 has been delayed until March 8th. I heard there was a delay. Does it have anything to do with Oden, or does it have to do with concerns about, the whole coronavirus going around? If it's either of those things, I hope and pray that everyone stays safe out there. Everyone out there in these countries. Oda was sick. Oh, okay. So I'm okay with I'm fine with there being a delay as long as Oda gets better. I'd rather he get better than him trying to push out a chapter despite his health. Because I know that doing this sort of thing can weigh a heavy toll on you because it's a lot of work. But, prayers out to Oden to make sure that he remains fine. But he's fine now. Okay, so he's fine. But at the same time, as long as he's all right, the country must be prepared to welcome and work with them. I will be clear with you. They're going to kill me today. No, you can withstand the boiling. You're already a third of the way through. I want you to open up Wano in my stead. Then we should join Lord Oden and then Denjiro is immediately shut up by Raizo. Your dream is our dream. Well said. 30 minutes left on the clock, so he's been enduring for 30 minutes. The gear took a while to turn to figure out that 30 and 30 is an hour. I'm sorry. I'm thinking of so many things right now. But 30 minutes left. But by this point, it was a hell where even the heat haze was lethal. The boiling oil burned Oden's skin. How is he still alive? Raise the heat! But Oden did not die. They tried to kill him, but Oden did not die. They tried to burn this man alive, but Oden did not die. They tried to kill his vassals, but Oden did not die. He worked hard to save the country of Wano, but Oden did not die. 10 minutes, 5 more minutes. Is he impervious to heat or something? Lord Oden, 1 more minute. 10 seconds, 3 seconds, 1 second. And then the timer goes off. And then you hear the crowd screaming, "Yippee! He did it! It's a miracle! He survived the execution! Lord Oden did it! He withstood the boiling!" And then Shinobu's crying, "Thank goodness, Lord Oden's won! He cleared up the misunderstanding. The country's on his side again. You're in for it now, Kaido!" "Don't wind him up, Cat. Why shouldn't I? A win's a win!" And then the cries and happiness of the crowd is completely one-sided as we see Kaido's men and the people under Orochi gearing up their guns to shoot Oden down, him and his vassals. Also, hey CJ, what's going on? "I changed my mind. I altered the sentence to death by firing squad 1 minute ago, and the entire clan gets put to death too." So, there are so many sore losers in One Piece. Like, I can say this because he really is a sore loser. Even when the most mightiest of Chads, the greatest of kings, the manliest of men, survives an execution that would kill the average person for a whole hour. Of course, sore losers would just come in and just say, like, "I am altering the deal. Pray I don't alter it any further." And then he just comes in and says, like, "I changed my mind." Like, children do that. Children say, like, no. You, like, for example, you're playing against your cousin, like a young cousin. And he says, like, "If you do this, then I'll do this." But your cousin's a sore loser, just to say. And you beat him. And then he says, like, "I changed my mind. That's not what we're going to do." Kids do that. Children do that. Orochi is a child that does not like to lose. So sad about his upbringing. I wonder if his mom was still alive, would he be a different person? Makes me wonder. I wonder if Doflamingo's mom was alive, if he'd still be the same person. 2 more similarities between Doflamingo and Orochi. If their mothers were still alive, would they still be the same person? What kind of childish nonsense? And see, it says it right here in this panel that Ashura Doji just confirms with me. I didn't even look at that panel right there. It's just right there. That wasn't the deal. Lord Oden upheld the... And before he can even... What about Dio, too? Oh, right. I forgot about Dio. If a lot of these anime characters whose mother passed away when they were kids or before they were even born, if their mothers were still alive, would half of these characters be as evil as they were? Dio, Orochi, Doflamingo. Who else? Gaara at the beginning. Who else? There are other anime characters. I can't think of them right now. But that wasn't the deal. Lord Oden upheld and then he's immediately shot by Kaido's men. "Do it for me. Open Wano's borders." And with the last bit of his strength, he launches all the vassals in the air and they immediately take off running. "Run! Tokune!" Kinemon says with tears in his eyes. And Shinobu starts running away as well, away from Fukudokuju. "Don't turn back!" And it's all recounting and we go through the panels and it recounts all the moments that Oden met each of his vassals, from Kinemon all the way down to Kawamatsu, all the way up to Ashura Doji and everyone in between. "Shoot them all! After them! Wipe out the name of Kozuki!" "Either way, your body is already dead. I'll do you a kindness and put you out of your misery. And now the age of Kozuki is over for good. You'll all die. Don't make the mistake of underestimating our samurai." And then Kiku is running. They were recounting all the events. Everyone's accounting. It's like a whole panel where they're just talking about, where it's just recounting all the events of where everyone met Oden at. They will speak of you for years to come, saying that you died a spectacular death. In Doflamingo's case, his father was a good person, unlike Dio or maybe Orochi. Well, I'm just saying that if their mothers were still alive, it would have helped shape them into much better people. While Don Quixote Homing was a great father, despite being a world noble, he still behaved like a human being, like an actual human being with a heart and morals and a conscience. But Don Quixote but Doflamingo was too indoctrinated, I want to say, with the way that the world nobles treated people overall, that he's just grown used to that. But I wonder if his mother was there, would it have changed him, though? Because Don Quixote Miasgard, he was not always he was not the good world noble that he is now. Because when he came and crashed into Fishman Island, he tried to take Otohime hostage and demand that he be be set free and allowed to leave. He even returned to Fishman Island to take back the slaves who were freed by Fisher Tiger. But it was with his time with Otohime that he actually became, a human again. So just let it be known that women got a special effect on you that transcends anything. You spend enough time around them, you'll start to see the world a whole lot differently, because it took his one trip with Otohime, the time that they spent out on the sea, for him to completely do a whole 180 of how a world noble would act, and even cause the world nobles to be like, he's an odd one, just like that Don Quixote Homing. He's behaving like a person. What kind of individual are you to be a world noble? How dare you think of others before yourself? Ugh, who put you on the planet? Ugh. You know that SpongeBob dance. But seriously, women have that effect on people, especially in One Piece. So yeah, that's just my opinion on it. They will speak of you for years to come, saying that you died a spectacular death. Now, here's something that really didn't click with me until just then. I feel like this is the moment where Kaido desired to go out in a way similar to like even Oden and Whitebeard. Because there's been a lot of people going around saying that it was this moment where Kaido was thinking, wow, this man died, but these people still idolize him. I want to go out that way too. Not just in a way where it's just like he wants to be remembered. Like, people remember Oden, and all they can do is just recount the events of him. People can just speak of Whitebeard, and all you can do is just recount his events. Kaido, I feel, wants to go out that same way. That's why one of his hobbies is suicide attempts. But if you notice, most of his attempts are in big, spectacular ways that people always talk about. But he can't die. So his attempts to go out keep being denied, because every attempt to take himself out has failed. All the numerous times he's been caught by the Navy, the astronomical amount of times he's been beaten by other Yonko and, been imprisoned, and he hasn't died from any of these attempts, is pretty much keeping him from having that big final end that he wants. He wants to go out in a big way, but he can't, because every attempt keeps failing. So seeing Oden go out this way, like, let me just continue, and then I'll continue with what I think Kaido really wants for himself. They can forget me for all I care. My soul will live on. I'm sorry about what happened with the old hag. I had her killed. Note that this is the only time that Kaido apologizes for anything. This is the first time we've ever seen him say the words, I'm sorry. How upright of you. Build your strength while you can, for I am a story to accompany your drinks. It's funny. This man, when people are talking to him over drinks, it's the fact that his name is being mentioned at all and people are remembering him that kind of solidifies himself as a immortal type person. Like, even though he's going to die physically, the name of Kozuki Oden is going to live on throughout the ages. For I am a story to accompany your drinks. I am Oden, and I was born. And before he even finishes the sentence, he's shot right in the head by Kaido. And Kaido has a sense of honor about him. Yes, he does. I'll get into that. Before he finishes his sentence, he's shot in the head by Kaido and falls into the oil. And one thing I didn't notice is that when he's in the pool, the last thing you see of Oden is the smile of his mouth and his teeth as he sinks into the oil. And that's all you see is just a final smile as he sinks into the water, sinks into the oil. And the crowd finishes his sentence and says, "To boil! I am Oden and I was born to boil." That's the last words that they finish, and everyone cries in remembrance of him. And then it ends. And so ended one legend, to be carried on by the players of the next stage. And then it cuts to Kuri, where apparently Toki is told about the end of Oden, and apparently she's been given a lever to him. "Toki, I have reached my limit. If I fail to defeat him, there will be no others who can stop Kaido for a long time. Over 20 years ahead of us, there will likely be a massive war, terrible enough to split the seas themselves. In other words, in another 20 years, the primary figures of this great war will muscle their way into the new world. They are the ones who can strike down Kaido. A long winter will settle over Wano. I want you to use your power, Toki, if I should die." And before we figure out the rest of the letter, Toki tears it up. And it cuts back to events where Toki gets the swords from Oden, which makes me wonder how he got the swords in the first place. "Please give the children these swords. It sounds dangerous. Aren't you sad? It's a death sentence." "Who said you were going to die?" "That's my wife." "I'd be a laughing stock if anyone saw me crying. We are not your weakness. Look ahead, Oden, to 20 years in the future." The story hurtles towards the present day. And then the chapter says doesn't hit until March 1st, but we're not going to get one until March 8th. So that's perfectly all right. We're going on break. And those are all the chapters for One Piece in the month of February. So overall, we finally see the end of Oden's story. And we're soon going to be getting back to the present day, either after this break, or maybe it's like one extra chapter, and then we go back to it. But I'm really counting on we're going right back to the present day with this next chapter, because how long has it been since we've seen Luffy or anyone from the present day whatsoever? But overall, to continue about what I was talking about with Kaido and how I feel he actually wants to be remembered is, right up until his final moments, we've seen Kaido be vindictive and ruthless in anything. But here, before Oden dies, we see Kaido actually, kind of being mellow a little bit, in a manner of speaking. Going as far to say, "I'm sorry that I shot the old hag. I'm sorry about the old hag. I had her killed." This is the only time we see Kaido ever apologize to anybody or do anything that sounds apologetic in nature, because he's always done things his way and he's never apologized for it. Followers of absolute justice and the Marines, they don't apologize for their actions, except for Fujitora. But Kaido, as we've seen in the present day, his hobby is committing suicide or trying to attempt suicide, because he currently, through means that we don't know fully of, he can't die. No matter what type of execution type he tries to go for, he always survives. Whether it's death by impaling, death by hanging, death by guillotine, sinking numerous ships that are meant to carry him, or being imprisoned by other Yonko and beaten a whole bunch of other different times, he cannot die. He even jumped off a sky island and completely survived, and was disappointed by the fact that he survived and only got up with like a small headache. But it did absolutely nothing to him. What I feel Kaido wants in the end is to actually fully lose, like to completely lose and die, and go out in a way similar to Whitebeard and Oden, because they both lived their full lives to the best of their abilities, and they both went out in grand, spectacular ways that we will still talk about. Years on from now, we're going to look back and talk about how awesome Oden was the first time we read about him, and just talk about how much of a legend he is in terms of One Piece as a whole. Kaido wants to be remembered that way. I feel like that's why he's doing all these suicide attempts, because he wants to be remembered for the outrageous and completely ridiculous and completely awesome way that he died. He wants to be remembered just like Oden and Whitebeard. Whitebeard died in what is we've seen to be the literal biggest war in One Piece so far. Goes out fighting, he goes out, and he even in his last moments, he dies standing up, which is impossible in terms of people in the world of One Piece. So ridiculous that numerous people thought, like, wow, he's dead, but he's still standing. How is that even possible? And his last final words reignite the golden age of piracy by just confirming that One Piece exists, something that the world government hated, but also, you know, sparked a whole brand new revolution in the world of One Piece. Then we have Oden, an absolute mad lad of a man, come to be the only person from Wano to fully, you know, see all that the world has to offer, because he was there on the final voyage of Roger, and he saw everything. He knows what the Void Century was. He knew what the Will of D was. He knows what the One Piece was. He literally saw in and everything of the entire world. Wait, actually, no. No, I think no, he was there. No, he was there. He was there. But Oden goes out in a spectacular fashion. Like, people had built up this opinion of Oden like he's a buffoon, like during the 5 years where he was dancing in the buff. Sorry, I had to remember the events of what Oden was like crying for Roger about. Not only just Whitebeard and Oden, but Roger as well. Roger is dead. Roger is dead, yet everyone still calls him everyone still knows him as the king of the pirates and the greatest of pirates, whose capacity for popularity and legend has not been surpassed by anyone so far. So we have Oden, Roger, and Whitebeard. All these people died in a very grand and spectacular way. Roger died by starting the golden age of piracy. Whitebeard died by igniting the golden age of piracy and confirming that One Piece exists. Also going up against the entire might of the Marines. And still, even though he and Ace died, they still came out on top as people who pretty much did the most. Then Oden died by surviving an execution that was really supposed to kill him within the first couple of seconds. He survived for an entire hour while also keeping his own vassals alive by hoisting them up on his back and holding them up. And then the people realized that Oden has been fighting for their future, fighting for them to be all safe for 5 years straight. For every 1 day he danced in the buff, for 5 years, he saved over 100 people, which equaled the number that we talked about earlier. I'm not going to go back on it. So all three of them died doing something spectacular with things that will be talked about for years to come. Kaido wants to do something like that too. Like his declaration of jump-starting the biggest world the world has ever seen. I feel like his actions for doing that is because he wants to go out during this war. He wants to go out during this war and be remembered just like Oden did, just like Roger did, and just like Whitebeard did. And I feel like the more you think about it, the more it makes sense. Because with all the suicide attempts, all the times he purposely put himself in situations where he could die, but he can't die, it's all failed. He just keeps going after it and over and over and over again. So I feel like in his heart of heart, Kaido wants to be remembered for something huge and monumental. And I figure with him joining up with the Big Mom Pirates, that's pretty much pushing him towards that position that he wants to be in. Because at some point, he really just wants to die and go out just like Whitebeard and Kaido did. And he's actually, at one point, he was actually mad and upset that Whitebeard died before he did. Because Kaido can't die right now. And he hates the fact that Whitebeard could actually die and go out in a big old fashion like that. I have a vague memory of something that was said about a few hundred chapters ago about how Luffy challenging the Yonko was going to cause the biggest war in history. Yet, not only that, but Kaido was like, back when he was on the island where he crashed into like Kid and Hawkins and Scratchman and Killer and all of their meetings, he was saying like, man, Doflamingo, why'd you have to be so weak? Or no. This was before he found out that Doflamingo was defeated at Dressrosa. He was saying, all right, Joker, let's go ahead and get this started. Let's go ahead and start the biggest world in history. So, but with him joining up with the Big Mom Pirates, that just brings his dream to fruition. But that's just how I feel with Kaido. He has a sense of honor. He has a sense of respect for people who actually greatly exceed his expectations. So even though he's ruthless and, you know, murderous and a psychopath, he still has a small sense of honor where he can genuinely accept that there are people out there who are strong, and he can have a respect for them. Even though he won't say it, you can kind of notice that he has a small sense of respect for them in the way that he speaks. Because in other times, Kaido is all like vindictive, all like, oh, you think you're going to beat me? Well, come on then, show me. And it's right here in Oden's final moments where he says, I'm sorry about the old hag, I had her killed. He's not saying it in a vindictive way. He's not saying it in a sarcastic way. He's saying it in a genuinely apologetic and yet respectful way. Like the way it's worded and the way the panel shows his face, it shows him he's just saying it like, sorry about the old hag, I had her killed. Like he's saying it in a almost in a defeated type of way. Like he realizes that the guy he's about to kill, he's another person who's going to go out with a massive story that people are going to be talking about for ages. And this guy is about to die. And he's about to be the one to do it. And so he's all like, I can't die, but this guy's about to die and he's going to get remembered. That's pretty much how I see it. So you have Roger, you had Oden, and then lastly, Whitebeard. So these are three numerous people that he's encountered in his life that have all gone out in great story-worthy ways that he's still wanting for himself. So Kaido, it's something about him. There's something about him. I want to know more about him. I want to know more about the Rocks Pirates. I want to know more about the Rocks Pirates and Rocksteady Zebek, why Kaido joined, how did he become nigh invincible, save for the one scar that Oden gave him. So we all know that he's nigh invincible. But what is it about Oden cutting up Kaido that makes that really significant? Like when you think about it, this man has had everything done to him. Seriously, he's had everything done to him. Fought against numerous pirates, some of which I generally believe already have access to haki, and yet he's walked away from every single one of these encounters without a single scratch to show for it. Dude's even disappointed that he's walked away with a single scratch. He wants to die. But it's Oden who manages to give him the only scar that we see on him. Why is that so significant? Because if you think about it, most of the methods that he used to try and kill himself should have killed him. Jumping up from a sky island, from the sky, like tens of thousands of feet up in the air, he just face plants and gets up. No scratches. Not even like dirt marks on his body. He just falls from the sky, lands face first, and just gets up without a scratch. Gets put up for execution for hanging, impalement, beheading, numerous different attempts. Why don't he drown himself? That's the big question. No one knows why he chooses not to go out this way. Because I feel he doesn't want to go out in such a cheap way. Because if he just simply drowned himself, it was just like the story would be like, oh, well, how did Kaido die? He drowned. That's not spectacular. I honestly feel to Kaido, Going out by drowning is the least spectacular way he can go out. That's why I feel like he hasn't done it. He wants to go out big. He wants to go out bigger than Whitebeard. He wants to go out bigger than Roger. He wants to go out bigger than Oden. He's not going to go on off himself on something that's easily on something so easily to just, just simply drown, because that happens to so many different people out in the world of One Piece already. He wants to go out in a way that no one ever has, in a way that only people will talk about Kaido on. Something that was so ridiculous that Kaido could have done it. He wants to go out massive. He wants to go out in a way that is so ridiculous and so spectacular that you can't compare it to anything else. Him going out by drowning, the least spectacular thing he could do. That is the reason why he has not done it. That is the way. That's what I think, because it's just a casual. It's just an accidental and casual way to die. Just simply drown and just let yourself just suffocate and die in water. There's nothing spectacular about it. There's nothing story worthy about it. It's just something that happens out in the ocean. So that's the reason why he hasn't done it by drowning, because it's not stylish. I want to know how Shanks convinced him not to go to Marineford, gave him some good boost. I think so. Kaido is, when Kaido's drunk, he's random. Either Shanks fought him or Shanks talked him out of it. By the end of this war, history will be made. If by any chance Kaido and Big Mom are taken down, it will open the doors for new emperors, Law and Kid, if Law doesn't die. Seriously, we need to literally think about the idea that Big Mom and Kaido and Shanks and Blackbeard, they're not going to keep that seat forever. And we need to be thinking about the fact that at some point they are going to be beaten and they're going to have to give up their seat. Some may die, some might not, and some might just walk away from it. But here's the thing, though. These are emperors who we know to be astronomically powerful. Some of them are not going to give up their seats so easily. So even though by the end of this war, history will be made, even though we'll see this, at some point they're going to be taken down, but it's going to require a lot of work. Like, even with Big Mom, they couldn't even take her down. Beige was really willing to kill Big Mom right then and there, but he couldn't even take her out the way that he wanted to. Like, she was screaming because her Mother Caramel picture was destroyed. She was screaming her head off, and even before Capone could use the PX launchers. Yes, I remember from the early days of me doing reactions to One Piece. Even those got destroyed before they touched her. This woman is literally One Punch Man. Like, she can literally walk through the ground as if it was like sand. Because you guys remember it, she was zapped into a giant hole by Nami manipulating Zeus and zapping everyone around Big Mom and Big Mom herself with a lightning bolt, and she just walked through the ground like it was nothing, untouched. This woman is the epitome of the word tank. She's essentially like that. What is it? I don't like getting hurt, so I'll put all my stats into defense. That anime that's been out for a while. You know, the girl that's put all her stats into defense, and she hasn't been taken down at all. She doesn't feel anything at all. That's basically Big Mom. Big Mom has maxed out modded stats at 999,999, and it drops down to 0 when her mental instability changes up, and then it goes right back up to the almost 1 million. So Big Mom is pretty much a tank. Kaido is purely strength, is a tank and strength. If you were to put the Yonkos in categories, Big Mom is defense. Even though they're really strong, even though they're all really strong, Big Mom's biggest attribute that is very noticeable about her is her nigh invulnerability. And Kaido's biggest thing is his nigh vulnerability and his monstrous strength. Then you have Shanks, who is able to go toe-to-toe with pretty much Whitebeard, no problem, and even go up against Akainu. And then you have Blackbeard. Well, Blackbeard is Blackbeard. He's kind of random on whether he wants to be hurt or not. Blackbeard and Shanks wouldn't even bat an eyelid at either of them. No, they wouldn't. because Blackbeard and Shanks are completely different. For all we know, we know that Blackbeard is capable of housing 2 devil fruits within his body, both the Gura Gura no Mi and the Yami Yami no Mi. But who's to say that he can't hold more? Could he literally become a chimera of a devil fruit user? Or is he just keeping the Gura Gura no Mi and the Yami Yami no Mi for himself? Shanks has great all-around stats. He has very high stats in charisma because during the chapter, the ultimate chapter, they say that all of his crew follow him without question. They trust Shanks completely. They literally have no doubt of Shanks in their mind whatsoever. And he's had the same crew since the beginning of the story. And they've all been following him since then. This dude has ridiculously high charisma for him to not only Shanks has influence everywhere, which makes him the most powerful Yonko. When you think about it, he kind of is. Because not only is he able to have his entire crew follow him without question, but they trust him to the utmost of their whole being. But he is able to convince the entire Navy to let them take Whitebeard and Ace and stop the war without any more fighting. Able to get into Marijua and speak to the 5 elders, which is something that we've never seen. And not only that, he's the only person that we've seen so far who's literally Shanks' haki puts him over the top as well as his powerful crew. He has very powerful haki. Enough for, like, before we saw Katakuri and Luffy's Conqueror's haki clash and we saw it destroy the environment around them, Shanks was the first display of this, where he is going onto Whitebeard's ship and he's knocking out every single person on Whitebeard's crew with a weak will. And in that same process, he's slowly but kind of methodically destroying parts and breaking up parts of the ship just from the force of his haki alone. So he has extremely strong Conqueror's haki with enough power for it to actually manipulate the environment around him. But he has great influence, and he's ridiculously strong. Even for him to be missing like his left arm, which we come to think it was actually his predominant arm, because his sword is on his right side, and usually you would have your sword on the opposite side of where you draw from. So if you're right-handed, you would normally have your sword on the left side so you can draw it easier. He has his on his right side, which makes us think that his best sword arm was possibly his left. And he's still able to use his right just fine. So either he's ambidextrous, that's just a little tidbit there. But this man commands respect from so many different people. Most of which to be from the former 7 warlords, to be Mihawk. As soon as Shank came up, Whitebeard was all like, okay, so you told me to come here to fight Whitebeard? I did. Shanks is here. I'm going to go. And he warned the Navy that said, like, you guys should stop as well. Like, if you go by the dub of One Piece, Mihawk, as soon as he sees Shanks, he walks away, and then one of the guards is all like, Hawkeye, get back here. Where do you think you're going? And then Mihawk says, I agreed to fight Whitebeard, true. Whitebeard's crew, true. But Shanks is another matter entirely. You should quit as well. So it just shows that Shanks is something that Mihawk has a great amount of respect for Shanks, but even he knows that going up against the red-haired pirates is not worth his time. Taking on Whitebeard, another Yonko. Sure, let's gauge the distance between us and that man. Not like as much as I love the One Piece dub, and I really do, I have massive respect for both the sub and the dub as well. I just feel like they kind of messed up Mihawk's line when he says that. When he should have just says, I just want to gauge our distance between us and that man. You know, gauge the amount of strength between us warlords and all the Navy, between that man, Whitebeard, and everything. I feel they messed up his line when they just say, like, how far away do you think he is? It's almost like he's right in front of us. It kind of doesn't resonate really well. So, but Mihawk has a sense to know that if I go ahead and continue on with this is just going to be a losing battle. This is not worth any of our time. So I'm just going to go home. So it just shows you just how strong Shanks and his name carries for him to be able to do all these things. Like, literally just chill and make his way into... Like, it's the fact that it's not... The thing that gets me is how does a pirate get into Marijois, no problem, and then makes his way up to the Five Elders' room and speaks to them casually. And the Five Elders think so highly of him that they cause all the guards that they usually keep in the room with them to go outside and not be in the same room where they are. No other pirate has ever done this. To actually have the Five Elders listen to what they have to say. And then after the conversation's over, they go ahead and just visit him. Im-sama. And Shanks just goes off on his own. Just leaves. Where anyone else who even approaches the red line would be killed. Let me see what y'all been saying. Shanks, Hockey puts him over the top. I still want to know how Blackbeard gave Shanks his scar while he was completely on guard. If you notice, there was a chapter where it shows Whitebeard and his crew, and it shows Teach with like a 3-clawed weapon in his hand. So at some point, either when Shanks was young, Teach gave it to Shanks, or when they got a little bit older, because there's a concept art and image art where it shows a younger Teach, but he still has another 3-clawed weapon. So at some point in their past, I still kind of want to know how he got those scars as well, especially because we see characters get scars all the time, but it's only the most significant ones that stick around. Like Luffy has been bitten, he's been mauled, he's been punched, he's had teeth knocked out. Like, he's had numerous points where he should have lasting scars, but it's only the scar from him cutting under his eye to make himself look like look tough in front of Shanks's crew, and the scar he gets from Akainu that actually stick around. So, and there's always significance behind every single scar that we see on any character. Like, we know Brook's crack around his head is to emulate the scar he had as a human, and that's one of his trademark features. So that's with him there. Then we have Zoro, who gets slashed across his chest by Mihawk. Of all the times that he's been cut by numerous people and cut numerous times, that's the only scar that stays. That's that significance. So I'm kind of wondering about, like, when are we going to see the battle between Shanks and Blackbeard of why he has those 3 scars across his face? But that's just me. But I need to take a quick intermission real quick. I kind of need to check on Jet a little bit and let him out, because he usually gets let out around this time, and I don't want him to make a mess or anything because I just gave him a bath. So hold tight, everybody. I'll be right back, and then we'll continue this conversation a little bit more, and then I'll end it, because I kind of don't want to go too long today, because I kind of want to start up another stream maybe a little bit later this evening of us finishing up the rest of the Neo 2 Last Chance beta. So we'll go through that. But hold tight, everyone. I'll be right back. All right, let's see what you guys have been saying. I thought we were going to see it in the Oden flashback. I honestly thought that we were going to see the battle where Shank got his scars in the Oden flashback as well. I believe Teach is using his darkness fruit to hide two other people within his body. Just look at his Jolly Roger. It has 3 skulls, so he and 2 others are working as co-captains. Plus, Teach has had multiple personality changes. Yes, because Teach has like multiple sided personality. One side is calculating and methodical and very smart. Other times he's lackadaisical, is carefree and doesn't pay attention. So it's kind of it kind of makes one think that maybe he has more than one personality, or like you say, more than one person housed in his darkness, because we don't know the full extent of how people can survive in his darkness. We've seen what people look like when they come out of it, like the people he absorbed when he went to Impel Down, and they came out of it, and they all just look like dazed and scared. But we don't know the extent of how strong a person can be if a strong person gets absorbed in there. Some say that Teach has some kind of multiple personality disorder. Shanks probably was not as powerful hockey-wise. Multiple personality or multiple people theory is interesting. Blackbeard's case is just not as extreme as Diavolo's, though. No, not really. But overall, these chapters that we got, we finally see the end of Oden's life. And I just thought over the course of all these chapters, like every single chapter was just massively hype. Like the backstory and the history of Oden is just it's great. I thought it was very good, and it just shows that Oden is good at world building and then filling that world with people that resonate with that world. Like seeing his adventures with Roger, finding out how Roger was a person. And even though we've seen Roger only attack one time, like I don't think we've ever seen hockey in that manner. Like armament hockey, so powerful that it actually trails off like an energy trail off of his sword when he was about to clash with Whitebeard. And the moment where they clash so hard that it causes the entire island to resonate with just full hockey power. And it caused the oceans to crash. It caused the sky to split. It caused people to be blown back. It caused the Moby Dick, which is a massive ship in its own right, to be rocked furiously in the ocean. We saw numerous things. We saw Roger become king of the pirates. We see Oden travel both Whitebeard and Roger, which is something not many people can say in the lives that they traveled on the ships of 2 of the most pivotal people in the history of One Piece. But I just think that Oda really created a very great character for the entirety of One Piece. Like literally one of the best characters ever. Like this man was so selfish when he was growing up as a kid. He did whatever he wanted, created harems when he was really young. He gambled and he just kicked anybody's behind that stood against him at any other point. But then he started to think of others before himself, and we just saw how deep this man's humility would go. And it just amazes me that this man went from being selfish to selfless. I know I said this multiple times during multiple different streams, but this is something that just really resonates with me, that he's putting people before himself, even putting his own life on the line to ensure that people that he knows could bring about the opening of Wano's borders. He's willing to literally sacrifice his own life to ensure that they had the chance to do this. And even as he stared death in the face, he still went out in a spectacular fashion that we will all remember for years to come. I just rate these chapters as a whole, like the whole month, a 10 out of 10. Just if I just want to give like a numerical synopsis of everything, I just rated it like a 10 out of 10. I thought it was really good. And I can't wait to see what the month of March is going to bring. Oh my goodness, ladies and gentlemen, I am so happy about March. Not just because it's going to be my birthday coming up near like the time that One Piece Pirate Warriors 4 and Neo comes out, and then the Ultimate Alliance DLC comes out, but also the fact that it's just going to be just more One Piece and more anime. And I can't go into full detail of it, but there are certain things happening in my life that could make it a lot easier for me to do this uh, for you guys. There's some good opportunities that have popped up. Like I said, I can't go into full detail of it because it's not set in stone. But I feel like with this opportunity that's set in front of me, I will be able to uh, do a lot more of this a lot more often and dedicate a lot more time to this and, not have to worry about being up at 10, you know, in order to go to a certain job. I feel like that may be coming to an end soon, and I'm excited for it. But like I said, it's not set in stone yet. But this opportunity, it looks like it's going to open up a very, very good door for me, and I can't wait to see where it leads me. It's going to be something new, but at the same time, I'm willing to put in the work for it in order to ensure that what I do here does not get impacted at all, and I can do even more of this. So just you guys keep me in your prayers so that this actually starts to uh you know resonate real well, so that way this channel does not have to fluctuate in any way. So that's going on in March, but we got numerous games coming out. There's so much in March. I'm really looking forward to one. Don't even know. I'm looking forward to One Piece. I'm looking forward to Neo, but One Piece more than anything because they recently had the Doflamingo and Fujitora trailers for Pirate Warriors 4. They both look phenomenal. The fact that we are going to be able to play as Doflamingo with access to his awakened abilities. Like, if you guys have not seen the trailer for Doflamingo and Pirate Warriors 4, you could literally summon string pillars tipped in hockey. And if any of you ever played Pirate Warriors 3, then you know that Magellan, or Magellan, however you want to say his name, Magellan is able to summon like one Hydra that can attack in your direction, in the direction that you're attacking in. Well, Doflamingo can do that same thing, except his strings are a lot larger. They have a bigger range, and he can summon at least like, what, 7, 8 of them around him. Like, he literally just touches the ground starts to turn white, and then pillars of strings pop up, and they all swing around every time you attack. Now, of course, we don't see the whole combo because, it's just like a trailer, but he has access to Athlete. He has access to a much, much greatly improved Parasite combo. He has access to Break White, Ever White, and so many different skills he didn't have in the previous game. Is Cracker playable too? Unfortunately, it doesn't show Cracker, but then again, we are getting a character pack, so who knows? We could see more characters. Hopefully, the cut characters that they have in the game do not come back as the DLC for the character pass, because that'd be kind of cheap, cutting characters only to sell them back to us. So that would actually be a bit of a downgrade if they actually pull that. I really hope they don't. But there's numerous things happening in the game, like Fujitora. Unlike Muso games, warrior type games like Dynasty Warriors, Warriors Orochi, Sengoku Basara, Samurai Warriors, games like those, when you go into the air, you're kind of suspended in the air. And in terms of some characters, it doesn't make much sense. But Fujitora kind of gives like a literal and plausible reason for why he's in the air doing his air combos. Out of all the characters I've seen, he's the only one who has a plausible reason to be up in the air doing air combos, because when you do an air combo with Fujitora, he jumps into the air and then he does his combos while he's floating on a rock, like we've seen him do in the anime and the manga. So he's doing combos in there, and it just makes it seem like, yes, out of all the air combos I've seen characters do, this fits. So Fujitora looks crazy strong. He has access to Grabito Moko, and seeing it happen in the trailer itself, he literally just goes, and then the whole wave just goes back. And since there's destructible environments in this game now, you see it kind of chip away at some buildings and even crack them in the same direction that the wave went in. Don't know if you're going to be able to cheese the game with Fujitora's Meteor like you could in the previous game, because anyone who's played as Fujitora in Pirate Warriors 3, remember that he was the insta-win button. All you had to do was just give him the skill of Quick Charge, and you're good. Anything else was just extra. All you had to do was just Quick Charge a Meteor, bring it down, and he would literally kill everything. You could do this in Nightmare Log, and it still helped. And he literally could beat any stage. No problem. he was literally the top tier character aside from Shanks and Whitebeard in terms of, you know, most OP character in that game. So I don't know if they're actually going to keep that, since a lot of the skills for characters are going to be put on cooldowns now, which can then be leveled up. But I don't know if you're going to be able to spam meteors the same way. Some people are saying that maybe if you hold down triangle, that'll charge a meteor in that way. So we don't know the full extent of it, but we'll have to see. But I'll drone on like this as usual, so I'm just going to stop here. This March 19th is your birthday. D-Train, I will remember that, because I believe, actually, there's a game coming out on March 20th, so that's a good way for me to fully remember. There's a game coming out. Is that Neo coming out on that day? Yeah, Neo comes out on the 20th, so that kind of will help me remember your birthday is going to happen before then. Then we got Doom Eternal coming out. There's so many things happening, but I don't want to detract from this entire conversation because I'll talk about games all the time. But overall, thank you guys for coming out to see me today. I love doing these reflections, especially when it's live, so that way I can talk to you guys while we do this. I know I say this all the time, but I just want to say thank you guys for coming out and to see me. If you're new here, then I hope to see you around here again. And if you guys are returning, then, you know, thanks for sticking with me. I know I'm not the best at what I do, nor am I the most extravagant when it comes to the things I create, or the most articulate when it comes to my way of speaking, or even I don't even have like the best thumbnails that like appeals to everybody. I'm kind of simplistic in those sort of ways, but I just want to say thank you guys for just, you know, coming out and seeing what I do. I enjoy doing this, and for every time you guys come up here and say that you like the stuff that I do, it's encouraging. It really is. As me, I still consider myself a small content creator because I'm still building my channel up. But overall, it's encouraging to me to know that what I do, people enjoy it, and I'm thankful that you guys enjoy it. Never in my years of doing this did I think that I would have this many people who actually like what I do and say that they enjoy it. So it's heartwarming, and I'm thankful for it. So with that being said, hope you all enjoyed. Can't wait to see you all in my next videos. Have a fantastic day. And once again, as always, later, peoples. I'm going to eat me some brownies. Little bird.